number one in this continent.
Mr. President, in December, the United Nations imposed sanctions on Eritrea for what they say was supporting armed groups like Al-Shabaab in Somalia. Do you feel as though you've been unfairly victimized?
It's a mockery of justice and history. In our political culture, we've never believed, and we don't believe, religion is an alternative or substitute for political, social, economic problems in any one country or any society. We've never entertained the idea of Sharia being a solution or Islam being a solution, as many may like to appreciate. How possibly can one blame Eritrea for sympathizing or supporting one group against the other in Somalia? We've never done that.
Al-Shabaab themselves claim that your defense ministry visited them. The African Union has complained about your activities in Somalia, as has the United Nations. Are you saying that they are all lying?
Where are these evidences in the first place? We never went. The French have 2 kidnapped hostages there. They asked our good officers to see if we can do anything. We never promised, we never wanted to get involved in this, but because there was that initiative, we wanted to contact with everybody in Somalia.
So are you therefore saying that those Al-Shabaab members, the African Union and the United Nations, are therefore all lying?
We believe Al-Shabaab are Somalis in the first place, whether they are radicals, moderates, whether they're part of the Islamic course or not. We believe every Somali should be involved in an inclusive political process.
But why would the United Nations and the African Union say that this is what you are doing, that you're
Where
supporting?
are these evidences in the first place? What are the evidences? How can you explain the fact that Eritrea supports this or that radical Islam?
So would you, if Ethiopia were to withdraw from Badme, that's the border town that you are referring to, if they had to withdraw from that, would you then take this country off the war footing?
It's not a problem with Ethiopia. We've never had any problems with Ethiopia. We worked with these people for almost 2 decades to remove a government in Ethiopia. And we wanted to see a relationship between Eritrea and Ethiopia based on mutual respect and commonality of interest, and we worked for decades for that. And now we're talking about a misguided policy of the United States that wants to create crisis here, political problems here and there, and micromanage those problems.
Okay, you say that that's your relationship with Ethiopia. Please explain to me what your relationship is with Sudan. You have alleged links to GEM as well as the SLA.
That is again a distortion of history. It's a deliberate distortion of facts.
Who then was responsible for pulling GEM out of the peace talks with the government?
Not at all. No, never. That never happened. In Abuja, when negotiations were underway, we said this is not a solution. There has to be an inclusive and comprehensive political process in the Sudan to address the issues of Southern Sudan, Eastern Sudan, Central Sudan, Northern Sudan, and Darfur. We've never entertained an idea of intervening this way or that way to support one group against the other, not at all.
All those allegations leveled against Eritrea about being one of the main backers behind destabilizing this region, destabilizing the Horn of Africa. Is that not true?
Who is destabilizing the Horn of Africa? Who has been supporting warlords in Somalia for the last 20 years? Who has intervened in Somalia, invaded Somalia? Who has wanted to put governments from outside? We have 3 strategic interventions the last 8 or 10 years where people have tried to impose governments from outside. None of these governments has worked. This is destabilizing Somalia, and by destabilizing Somalia, you destabilize the region.
Many political analysts believe that the next proxy war between Iran and Israel is going to take place on your soil. Are you prepared to be turned into the next Vietnam?
This is a joke. This is giving Eritrea beyond its means. These are fabrications. These are allegations without any facts.
It's well documented that you are helping Iran through your Asab port send arms to Yemen to support the Houthi fighters who are fighting the government as well as Saudi Arabia. Can you explain your actions?
It's senseless. It's senseless. Who would want to destabilize Yemen? We have all along, the last 20 years, supported the government of Ali Abdullah Saleh genuinely.
So do you deny then that you are supporting the Houthis in Yemen?
This is a fantasy in the minds of those who want to sell this idea and create a sense of threat and fear in this region so that they can manipulate it for their own agendas. There is no refinery in the first place in Asab. There is no presence for anyone who want to go. You can go and see who is there and who is not there. And to assume that your allegations are facts and try to find an explanation for that assumption, I say it's crazy. It's all fabrications. We sometimes bother and wonder why all these fabrications about things that do not exist on the ground. It's compromising your credibility as a media outlet and coming up with a pack of lies and trying to prove to them, to anyone, by putting them as facts on the ground and trying to give the impression that these are things that exist in the real world. Israel is here, who is not here? Iran is here. I mean, how can you possibly imagine people to trust and believe what you tell them when you're talking about lies that do not exist in
Every single question I've put to you is backed up with a lot of research and a lot of facts. So with respect, Mr. President, I'm just trying to find out how your country operates, because I find it a fascinating country. So please, as a journalist...
It's a good exercise for a journalist to ask questions about a number of things, but to come up with a pack of lies, a pack of fabrications, and try to prove them by putting them as very innocent questions and trying to give credibility or trying to discredit your sources. You're discrediting the sources, you're discrediting the United Nations when you come and tell things in the name of the United Nations when the United Nations has not said anything like that. And how can a media outlet with credibility come up with these lies?
Who do you consider your friends?
Where do you mean?
In the world?
The whole world. The whole world. Outside liars. A bunch of liars may not be my friends. But the whole world now is behind Eritrea. Everybody is asking, why all these lies? Why this sanction? Why this and that? It's an expression of the support of people. Minimum, you can imagine sensible people asking very simple questions about all the fabrications they hear every day. And that is by way of questioning the credibility of those who are telling the lies, which means it's a support for the one who is being victimized without any evidence. That's very important to remember. And those people who are asking very simple questions are behind Eritrea.
So if you can just tell me a little bit about your aspirations.
We don't need any wars. We have fought for so many decades, and we know what it means to go into war. And it's very senseless to imagine that you can waste your time and resources doing things that do not deserve any penny. We are focused on doing the right things in this country to change their quality of life. Those who've never tried it may fantasize about going to war. We have been there for so many decades, almost 2 generations. At least we will not be like Kenya, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Somalia, Sudan. We are better off. We are #1 in this continent.